I know everything I know, y'all. But you got to let me go to the dispensary in Fairfax.
That's right.
I'll tell you every doggone thing I know. But you got to let me go. Now here we are once again. This is Alligator in Alignment. And once again, I am in Fairfax. Let me take care of this. I'm in Fairfax at the Alliance. How do you say?
Marin Alliance
The Marin Alliance.
Dispensary.
We did a show, I guess about 6 months ago, something like that.
Yeah.
And people have been asking me, when are you going to follow up? So I
We
thought
are.
I thought my darling was off in Africa, but she hasn't
No.
left yet. She's
No.
still here.
I'm still here.
So,
No
this
adventures yet.
Lynette Shaw.
Hello, everyone.
And if you, I'm going to bring you, those of you who didn't see it, I'm going to bring you up on it a bit. She and her cohorts were responsible for opening the first cannabis dispensary in the country.
First one with a license.
The first one with a license, a legal.
Yeah, legally.
Legal.
First license in the world, actually.
Yeah. It took almost 30 years for you guys to pull that off.
Well, 20 years. We
20
were in
years.
court with the feds. I was sued by President Clinton, and I became the test case to stop the legal cannabis industry in the whole nation. And they persecuted me and did all these terrible things. For 19 years, we finally prevailed and beat the feds for everybody in the country. And then we had to save our landlord, because during this time period, they seized his property over my one little dispensary. So he got his property back, but he was never supposed to rent to me or any dispensary for the rest of his life, nor could his heirs. And then we overturned that, so it was safe for him and every landlord to rent to a licensed dispensary and not worry about their land. And I got my place back in the exact same place they forced me out of after 5 years. So we've been back open for 7 years.
Oh my goodness.
I know, it's crazy, huh?
And I was thinking about Lynette should write a book.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked you about it
Yeah.
when I got here, and you've got a book.
I've got a book deal, a big time one. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, that's wonderful.
Yeah, they're going to put me on tour all over the world next year.
It's
It's huge. So we're still working on it. I have a team. I have my best buddy is doing the interviews, and then we're sending the interviews to the writer and the editor, and there's a handler and a booking agent and a social media person and everything.
Oh my
Wow.
goodness.
I know. So we're still working on it, but we've got several chapters done, and deciding if it's going to be a series or just one book, because it's actually a series, you know.
Well, I'm sure you got lots of stories to tell.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be wild. So like buckle your seatbelts.
So that is very exciting. So you know, we're going to let you know when we're going to try to follow her on a tour, be in touch, and report back and forth, because this is really, my goodness, it's great that they're going to document it.
Yes.
What you guys did.
And publish it all over the world.
That's
Wow.
wonderful.
In several languages too.
Oh my goodness.
Because the story is, well, it's like it took a woman to invent a license to legally sell pot, and that made everybody satisfied that we were being honest, because being a criminal for so long, they didn't trust anybody in the marijuana world, and they didn't, they felt that we were dishonest. No, we were just illegal, not dishonest. We were very honest. That's the whole thing. Is being very honest, even when it's not legal, is sort of a dichotomy. They didn't understand that, but we passed all their tests. I was audited every 6 months for the first 5 years to make sure I wasn't being dishonest. And after the 5 years, twice a year, they said,
One of the things that I told people, I stress with people when I talk about you, is that for us stoners, we are just elated, but this thing was not started to get people high.
No. It was to save lives.
There you go.
Yeah, I always loved pot. I had a very stressful childhood, and I started using pot when I was 16 because I had intense pressure from my very strict father, who was an IRS federal agent, and that was
Oh boy.
I ran away from home. I moved out when I was 18, and I was very depressed and stressed, and pot made me feel like I was alive again. So I've always been using medically, even though I didn't know it. I wasn't diagnosed for a long time. And finally, I'll confess here on your thing, but I have post-traumatic stress from all the stuff I went through. And post-traumatic stress stops you from wanting to commit suicide because it was so stressful for me, I wanted to kill myself. Very seriously. I tried a couple of times, wasn't successful, thank God. And pot saved me. It saved me. And I went to jail for pot. The very thing that was saving me, they beat me up and took me to jail, and I spent 80 days. They were threatening me with 2 years, but I got a 120-day sentence instead, and I managed to work my way out of that to 80 days. But when I got out, I was just spitting mad. I was, So I joined the Dennis Perone and Jack Harrow full time in 1991 when I got out. I went to jail in 91. I got out in the fall, and I started working full time in the first cannabis club in history in San Francisco. I was on the first staff in the first cannabis club. And I had met Dennis knowing I was going to go to jail at some point. And I went in, it was April of 1991. And he took me to the cannabis club. And there were all these terribly sick people, about as big as my finger, hanging out, feeling good, eating something, and not looking like they were dying. Well, they didn't die. That was the thing that just got me. If you had HIV/AIDS and you started using pot and were able to eat, you got better, at least for quite a while. We lost many through there before all the cocktails and all the science came in, but of this extraordinary group of people that were using pot illegally in the Castro, they were surviving when everyone else was dying. So my mom was a Quaker. She taught us well. What do you do when this one little thing, this joint, might save somebody's life who's terribly ill? You get them their pot.
Yeah.
It was very dangerous and it was very scary, but it was the right thing to do. And as science turns out, and as public opinion, came along with us, it was the right thing to do. And then it stepped forward into the 215. I was on the committee to develop the first pot law in the country. And then now it's all over the country. I think 35 states out of 50 have some medical marijuana at least. And there's 12 or 13 that have also recreational, because when they started figuring out that, the sky didn't fall, and people weren't laying around the street smoking joints, And life went on and people got better, and we were able to see that this is a societal good, not a societal harm.
That seems to be the norm with things like this. There's the hysteria first.
And it suppressed the blacks, the browns, and the hippies.
Oh well.
Yeah.
That's a subject I try to edge around, but I'm telling you, yes. They didn't really make it illegal until it moved into the neighborhood where they lived in, and they said, okay, we got to do something about this.
Right. You can't have people feeling good.
Yeah.
You can't have, peace and love. There's something wrong here, peace and love, and everybody getting along. Wow, what's that?
Yeah, I've got a story I've been telling for many years, probably since I was in my 20s. I had a friend in New Orleans who was one of those guys who went out every weekend, and he drank he drank a lot, and had a big mouth, and was always thought he was King Kong when he got drunk. And every weekend he would have a lip out here or a black eye or something.
Oh,
and he's complaining to me. He said, Alligator, I don't know, I go out, I'm having a good time, and the next morning I wake up, I'm all beat up, and I go to the bar and everybody's mad at me and I don't remember anything.
Wow.
And I said, you know what, my friend, you should change your mode of recreation. I said, well, you should. Back then we called it reefer. I said, you should smoke reefer. And he goes, oh, it's the same thing. It's all drugs. It's all drugs. I said, no, I could take 4 or 5 guys like you and lock you in a room with a quart of whiskey and just lock you in there. And you're going to get along fine at first, but before long, somebody's going to be fighting.
Yep.
I said, I could take 15 guys like you and lock you in a room with a half a pan of pot and leave you in there for however long you want, and not an unkind word would be spoken.
That's right.
You know,
That is exactly right.
so it's just it's not conducive to that stuff.
Yeah.
But the thing I like about it is that it was started for health, to save people's lives.
Yes, absolutely.
You know.
It was a critical ingredient that they kept poo-pooing and laughing off at. Oh, that's just stoner hippie stuff or whatever, you know. But we now have science. They're finally letting us research it, you know. And we've had finally getting some people in here to ask questions. Are you a medical user? How are you using it? What does it help you with? Has your doctor reports improved and all this stuff? Yes, it does help. And we can't save someone from cancer, but it definitely, sometimes we can. That's what's so interesting, is that there's concentrates now, that we have enough pot now to make these concentrates called Rick Simpson oil. Very, very strong, black, sticky, super concentrated stuff. And you give it to the cancer patients, and many of them, the cancer tumors disappear. They shrink up and go into remission.
You know, I read something about that, and wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you see this, I have my girl, she wouldn't mind if I told her, named Marcia. Marcia's been with me for about 15 years. Her diagnosis was terminal 15 years ago. And she started on cannabis, and she took the RSO, which I donated to her since she was very sick, and the tumors disappeared, went into remission. Then she had another flare-up in another part of her body. We gave her the RSO again, went to remission. She's with me today, and she's healthy, and she's good, and she's in complete remission, and they told her she was going to die 15 years ago. This is why I keep doing this,
Yeah.
This is why I keep going, because all the poo-pooing, all the second-class citizenship, and getting beat up and going to jail and going through all this stress and struggle, even today it's not fixed yet. But Marcia's still with me 15 years later. She's my friend,
That is remarkable.
And this, I have many, many other cases, but she's the one I just came to mind right now, Many, many other cases. And if we can't save them, at least they have a softer landing. And that's
this book you're going to write, I can tell already that you've got so many stories to tell that you could actually make a series out of it.
Yeah, definitely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because how do you cram all of this into
one book? That's what the book company is telling me too.
Yeah.
Because they're going, wow, Lynette, we might have to have a series here. And I go, well, let's do it.
Because you guys were on CNN at one point.
Yeah, I was a spokesperson for Dennis Perone in the early days with the Prop 215. We helped develop it, and then we I had to train petitioners. I had been training petitioners for Jack Herer for his hemp initiative, and so I ended up training people all over the state on how to petition for marijuana, on all the dumb questions people are going to ask, and how to recognize an agent who's going to obstruct you.
Okay.
That was important, And the ones they call them tarantulas, where they do this and try to cause a scene in front of your petition table, that's an agent. They're paid to do that. And the one that'll yap, 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 and people wait in line and they can't get to the signatures, another agent. They train them to do that against us.
That's
And also, I always never do it by yourself. Always have some big guy there with you so they can kind of move the obstructor along, and if worst comes to worst, you move the table. And that's what we had to do all over the state. I have to tell you a quick story here. My friend Craig Litwin. We're talking 25 years ago. He was like 18, good kid. And I trained him, and I put him in front of Safeway up in Santa Rosa, where he's from. They arrested him in front of Safeway for petitioning for marijuana, medical marijuana. And so we got him a lawyer, and we kicked Safeway's butt. He got a big settlement that put him through college.
Oh, my goodness.
And now in front of every Safeway in the nation, they have to have a 6x6 free speech area.
Isn't that right? That in itself is a hell of an accomplishment.
That's hell of an accomplishment.
Yes.
And Craig went on to great success, and he's a friend of mine still. Years later, he's a good man. He's a consultant now for the cannabis industry. He was a good guy, and he still is.
And just that incident caused Safeway to change their policy.
Yes.
And to have a space for free speech.
Painted in yellow. So you ever wonder what that yellow box is in front of Safeway? That's because of us. Yay!
Boy, you really, like I said, this has got to be a series. I can't see you.
It's a long story, because I'm middle-aged now, and I've been doing this my whole life. But I also managed to get myself into I only like important situations. I can feel that, like, when it's powerful and it's real, and I don't waste time on something that's like. Sorry, it makes me excited. I get emotional about this too. I can tell when something's real, and I can tell when it's nonsense. So I don't waste my time with nonsense. I did that when I was a kid. I'm not doing that anymore. But if it's important and it's real and the people are real, then I can put my mind to it and I can help greatly. And that's part of my blessing too, is figuring things out. I can plan, I can strategize, and I can also I call it ring the bullshit bell.
Oh yeah. If you can't dazzle them with brilliance, baffle them with bullshit.
Yeah, I don't get baffled. Not anymore. There's still a lot of work to do, a lot of education. We managed to free all the prisoners in California. We had 6,500 people were freed when we legalized for adult. The best thing that Prop 64 did here was free 6,500 prisoners.
Oh, who were in for marijuana?
In for marijuana,
oh, my
marijuana
goodness.
only in California. Okay? So and this just happened. We're talking 2018, 2019, 2020. I contacted the Attorney General, Rob Bonta, who's an old friend of mine. And I said, look, there's still a couple thousand people left. He went on the TV a few weeks later saying, I'm looking for what's left of the marijuana prisoners because there's several thousand left. And he went and got those people out. So, one woman can make a difference.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So, we got them out. Now we're trying to get them to reduce the taxes. We're supposed to charge 41% sales tax for the marijuana now. And so that drives everybody into the black market.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
And they're screaming about the black market right now.
Right. We'd like to call it the traditional market. But, of course, we were always buying from the traditional market. And do you think that because they can't get a license, they're going to stop growing? No. We can't go to jail for growing pot anymore in California. The only thing you can go to jail for with pot in California is selling to a minor. That's the only jailable offense. So everybody and their grandma's growing pot in California now, especially Northern California. It's everywhere. It's piles and piles of it everywhere. The price went down to $200 a pound last fall because there was so much weed on the traditional market. Excuse me. And you can't go to jail for it. You can't lose your land. You can't lose your house. You can't have your kids taken away. None of that, thank God. But they can, get you for selling to a minor.
Yeah.
You shouldn't do that anyway.
Yeah, of course.
Of
course.
They can grow their own.
Be smart. Yeah.
But so they haven't taken a reality check on what's going on with the cannabis industry. It's failing in California, unfortunately. I'm barely open here because I had to reduce the sales tax charge so I wouldn't lose all my clients. But now I owe so much on uncollected taxes that it could shut me down, so I have to raise it up to the level they want me to charge, and so it's too expensive. And we do have a good cannabis program where we can donate to the sick and the poor, and we get that off. One of the few things we can deduct from our taxes is donations, and so we have to go up and lobby Sacramento to keep that bill alive. Yeah. It's supposed to sunset next year. In 2025, as we record this in 2024, we have to keep that open because the only way we can have compassionate donations to the sick and dying is to have it off our taxes instead of they were trying to charge us full price to give. If I was going to give you an eighth, I would have to charge myself $50 and pay the taxes for every donation. Which is crazy.
Yes.
That's crazy. So the donations went down to nothing, or they had to go to the traditional market. Now I still grow weed in my backyard as I have for years. That's where I have a lot of donations coming out of my backyard because I'm growing organically. I don't use pesticide. I know exactly what it is, and I'm confident when I give it to someone sick, it's going to help them. But I don't know how many growers really adhere to organic soil, organic food, plant food. all the stuff that we do to keep it as clean as possible. But a lot of growers are like that. And the testing, what's good about the legalization is they test the heck out of it.
Well, see, that's what I see too.
Mm-hmm.
I like that.
Yeah.
Because some of the growers, well, money will taint anyone.
Right.
And some of the growers, of course, using some really horrible methods to.
Yeah, I
to
know.
grow this
No
stuff.
one should ever use Miracle Grow.
Yeah.
Miracle Grow is for your flowers that you don't consume. If you put Miracle Grow in your vegetables, you're going to have pesticide-contaminated vegetables. If you put it on your pot plants, you're going to have pesticide-contaminated pot. And chemically contaminated. Miracle Grow also makes pesticides, but the fertilizer from Miracle Grow is all chemical, and it contaminates the bud. So you're smoking chemicals.
Yeah. See, that's what I like about the testing.
Oh yeah, 12 different tests.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
That's completely supportive
Because
of that.
otherwise, I know people would just run wild with putting anything in the world.
Yeah, to make them look all beautiful and
yes.
expensive and everything. Frankenstein bud, we call that. Yeah, Frankenstein bud. Don't want that. Frankenbud. It's bad for you. I'm allergic to that stuff. So I used to be the tester to see when we had only traditional market pot available. I knew the growers. I would go to the farm sites. I would check it out, and then when it would show up here, I would smoke it because I'm allergic to chemicals. I'm chemically sensitive. Or I could smell it. Quite often, I can just smell it, and I would know if it had been grown organically or not, just from the smell. Some of it was like hydroponic stuff would make me start to sneeze. My eyes would itch. My throat would want to swell up, and we can't have that. We cannot have that, especially for the sick.
Oh yes.
So we don't have hydroponics still to this day. Though they've improved the recipes quite a bit, and being the canary in the coal mine was kind of a weird part of my job.
Yeah. The keeping this to get them to keep the donation thing going shouldn't be as hard these days because there's so much scientific evidence to back up everything now.
Yes, thank goodness.
Just everything.
Yeah, it's so interesting because things we were guessing at, we were right.
And things that the indigenous cultures had been using it for many different reasons, for medicines as well as for all of those years they found out they were right all along.
All along. Yeah, that's where we got our first recipes to make tincture. Was from there was a Native American grandmother and a Mexican American grandmother who made tinctures by putting pot leaves either in witch hazel or isopropyl alcohol. The witch hazel had better reaction for those who were very immune compromised. And it was a very simple recipe, but they all did it. All the grandmas did this. They put their little jar in the kitchen window for the morning sun with their pot leaves in it. And when it turns green, you strain it out and you have a tincture. You have a rubbing alcohol. Can't drink it, but it really does something for pain.
Yes.
So it was a liniment, actually, not a tincture. Tinctures, we've seen tinctures from the traditional, of course, with Everclear, rum, all kinds of different alcohol. And now they're making it with glycerin and several different things. They still make the alcohol-based stuff, but I prefer the glycerin, which is sweet. And most people are not allergic to it. And it's easier to digest.
Glycerin, you just buy it in the store?
Yeah, well, the stuff we have on our shelves here, there's either there's an olive oil-based one or a glycerin-based. The olive oil is thicker, and it has a certain flavor. But the glycerin is sweeter and has a certain flavor. But they extract it into these little bottles with little eyedroppers. And you put it under your tongue, and it absorbs into your bloodstream under your tongue, and it gets to your body faster that way. So that's been very helpful. And so we have that. Now we also have mint extracts that are tinctures. They're made, and so they taste like mint, and that's good for upset tummies. So I try to have something for every kind of illness here, even though we do have a lot of adult users that just want to get something to go out and to the movies or the show or whatever, But we have a very good variety here, and I try to find the very best. And we have a money-back guarantee, so if something doesn't work, we find out right away. But after 25 years, we have a wonderful collection of really good medical products, along with really good recreational products.
That is wonderful. Let me cut this popping off.
Yeah, it's popping. Thank goodness for editing. There you go.
Yeah, I'm really impressed that your focus is always on the health part of it.
Yeah, I'm the consultant. When people come in and they don't know what's going on with them, and quite often we're the last resort, which we really should be the first resort, but they've tried Western medicine, they've tried this, they've tried that, they went to their chiropractor, they went to their acupuncturist, they're still suffering. And they finally break down and come to the pot club. And what we've got works.
Works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's my expertise now, is helping analyze as a consultant. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a nurse. I'm a medical social worker with vast experience. So they tell me what's going on with them. They're having arthritis, terrible arthritis. Nothing's working. And I have the salve. There's a couple of salves that are remarkable. It's like I have the Bengay of the cannabis world that soaks in like crazy and gets down deep and stops the swelling and pain. And it doesn't have camphor. It's got all organic ingredients. They're very gentle. But it's got a good whack of cannabis there, and it goes in there and stops the pain. And you can't be drug tested for something you rub on your skin. Yeah. It doesn't go into your bloodstream or anything, So I had a good friend of mine come in who's same thing. This arthritis is just killing him. He's gone through everything, and he's like, this isn't going to show up in my drug test for my driving job. No, it won't. You can't. It won't show up in your hair. It won't show up out of any body, anything. It's in your skin. It goes through your tissues and goes to where the pain is. So it works. And
it's amazing because just in my normal life, I have heard. Let me see. Keep it conservative. Yeah. I've heard at least 50 actual testimonials about marijuana helping with all kinds of mental disorders as well as
depression.
I mean, just people who I trust and I know, and so that's the reason I say there's so much science behind it now.
Finally,
they've caught up.
Yeah, caught up with us, right?
They've caught up.
We knew there was. This is the key. This is not a terrible thing. It's a good thing. Yeah. Marijuana is good. Whatever you want to call it, reefer, cannabis, boo, pot. It's pot, And that came from the old days when women were witches and they had a pot brewery.
Yeah.
So that's where the term pot comes from. Is witch's pot, witch's brew.
Okay. Isn't that something?
Isn't that funny?
Yes.
So, it's been a remarkable journey, and I'm happy to report this journey is going to be chronicled here with this book, or maybe more than one book. But,
I'm expecting a series.
Yeah.
No, seriously, because I don't see. No, you can't put it all in one book. It would you would have to leave too much out. You just can't.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to this. In fact, I'm going to be in touch with you when you go on your whatever trip you go on.
Yeah.
We're going to be communicating. I'm going to be reporting back here.
Yeah. They're planning to do a book tour across the nation next year, and then into Europe. All over the world, wherever I've been invited to Australia. I've been invited all over the world to discuss my adventures in cannabis and the struggle, and also being persecuted by the federal agents. For 19 years, I had agents assigned to me and my house and this business. We had an agent sitting right out there for 16 years straight in the car, staring at us. To try to intimidate us.
Intimidation,
yeah. And my patients streamed in, and they just give them the old finger or something, And it's like, what are they going to do to me? I'm dying from AIDS. What do you think you're doing? You're just trying to scare Lynette? Well, she can't be scared.
Yeah.
I got a little scared after 19 years or so, but they when they took the landlord's land, that scared me. And
I'm sure.
Yeah, we had to pack up and leave, and it was really awful. And the agents, after that, continued to sit in front of my house. and they were still monitoring me to make sure that I did not work in cannabis anywhere in the nation. I could not work with anybody in any state anywhere because I was barred permanently for the rest of my life from working in the cannabis industry federally. And they did everything they could possibly do. I bankrupted. They allowed me to do that then. They took my Social Security savings. You know?
Oh my goodness.
Yes, they did. The IRS did that. And I think I deserve restitution, but that's another issue. I couldn't find a job anywhere. I was losing my house to foreclosure, and I was very, very ill with post-traumatic stress and depression, and couldn't see my way forward. And then we won in court. I had the most wonderful attorney, Greg Anton. You rock, dude. Do a biggie up for Greg Anton. And he suffered with me through this whole thing. And then he stepped up and said, I don't care if you don't have any money. We have to win this case because they're going to shut down the whole industry. After they shut me down, they started shutting down everybody else. And then 5 years later, the raids stopped. In 2016, we won. The raids stopped for 2017 because they couldn't get past the fact that the federal judge had ruled against them, had excoriated the prosecution. When the prosecution got up in federal court, and when my lawyer said, there's 35,000 pot clubs across the nation now, because I didn't publicize how terrible it was. If they couldn't get past me, they couldn't go arrest anybody else. I was never arrested, I was sued. So they couldn't sue anybody else until they won the first case. So we kept this case alive for thick and thin, and they had to cheat to close me down in the year 16, because they took the landlord's land, which was outside my case, but it caused me to shut down, even though I still had the case. So I was shut down for 5 years, but we were still fighting the case, and I had no income. I was on general assistance. I was losing my house. I was terribly depressed. And my lawyer said, we've got to keep fighting because this is going to happen to everybody in the nation if we don't fight.
If you don't win.
And so their plan was to get rid of me, then get rid of everybody else. Yeah. They had started to do that for 5 years. They were shutting people down. Then we beat them, and we beat them good. In fact, we beat them so good, I have federal judges' protective orders from the DOJ, because when they got up in court and said, well, we don't care what anyone else has, she just can't have a dispensary in open court.
Oh my goodness! Now that, yeah.
My judge flipped out.
Yeah. Oh yes. Yes.
He jumped up. This is Charles Breyer, and his at the time his brother was Stephen Breyer on the Supreme Court, right? Do you remember equal justice under the law? Which is, of course, was printed on top of the Supreme Court, right? And then he told them that they had violated the Constitution, due process, the rule of law, my civil rights, and common decency, which they had. And so now I'm protected by orders from the judge. As long as I'm following the law, state law, they cannot come after me or anybody else in the nation. Yeah. So we're safe. Everyone's safe.
This is safe, absolutely wonderful, darling.
So then they have way too many rules in the state of California, but at least the feds can't come. So now we're still duking it out in Sacramento. And we're open, 7 days a week. Yeah, it's wild. In the same location I was forced out of.
And all of my friends out here who are enjoying just walking in the street smoking nowadays. Here we go.
I'm your godmother.
There's been a lot of suffering and a lot of bullshit to go through. Excuse my French.
Yeah. Oh, it is bullshit. And I went to jail for pot.
Yeah.
And it didn't make me change. It made me mad. And I got out of jail and I was fighting mad, spitting mad.
That's the spirit of a true activist.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then I started to work full time for Dennis Perone and the cause. And Dennis and Jack Hare were kind of trading me back and forth there. So for 5 years I worked for Dennis and Jack at the same time. They were just, Lynette, you got to come to LA for 3 weeks. Okay. Lynette, we got to go up to Sacramento and lobby. Okay. I was their left hand woman, their Girl Friday it was an extraordinary experience. Eddie Lepp, all these wonderful people who are not with us anymore. I got to experience working with them every day. And I was trained to train petitioners, and then I was training everybody across the state, thousands of people, to learn how to petition, particularly for marijuana, but also general how to petition. You know, that was very valuable information to give to the activist.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
This is how you do it.
Yes,
You know,
yes.
and it's still coming in handy today. We have to change things here in my town of Fairfax. We're out there with petitions. You know, we're going to go do another one because we have to change things in the town of Fairfax. They're not listening to us. We're being abused by the current town council, so we're going to change things by petition. You know, so it's an important knowledge to have, and to make sure everybody knows how to stand up for your rights. There's a step-by-step way that we are allowed to petition our government to redress grievances that they're ignoring or just brushing off, or, you know, you're too lowly to even consider helping. Well, no, we're not. We're the people. You know, we're the tax-paying people. We're not just bums on the street here. We pay taxes and we take care of business, and we're small business owners, not just the pot club business. But when they're ignoring people and they're being unfair to the people, you have to go in and change that, and the people can. So I'm doing that right now. we're trying to help Fairfax out. You know,
this is wonderful. We're gonna be following Lynette, and my goodness, it's always fascinating. I just
love hanging out with you, Alligator. Yeah.
You know, this is really cool. So listen, this is Alligator in Alignment. I'm gonna have Bobby the Bunny out in a few days. I'm gonna do a thing with Bobby the Bunny. He's my puppet who says stuff that I don't want to say.
I could use one of them. I got
anyway.
Clyde. He doesn't say much, you know.
Yeah. But anyway, Rastaman.
That's right. It's our Rasta friend.
But anyway, I'd like to thank you, darling, for spending.
Oh, you're most welcome. It's my
spending this
honor.
time.
It's my honor to be
Spending
here
this
with you.
time.
Yeah.
Listen, here's a good thing. When anybody is in Fairfax, anybody who sees this thing, if you ever passes through Fairfax, remember, look up the Marin Alliance.
Yeah, the Marin Alliance for medical marijuana.
Just Google it.
And delivery. Yeah.
And drop in and make a purchase to support the alliance and to help them keep their doors open.
Yeah.
You know.
Appreciate that.
And I think maybe even, I don't know when you're going on your book tour, but maybe before your book tour, we'll do something else.
Yeah,
too.
I'm supposed to have the hard copy printed by next spring, and I should be taking off. This is in 2025. That's the plan now, to put me across the nation in 2025, and then across the world in 2026. So,
that is absolutely wonderful.
I can't
wait.
wait.
That is absolutely wonderful.
Yeah.
So listen, this is Alligator in Alliance with my friend Lynette Shaw. Like I say, all you stoners out there, you've heard right now, and you owe her a lot of this freedom that you have. So when you take a toke, you remember.
I'm the founding mother.
Somebody paid for it.
That's right. I'm the founding mother of the revolution. I'm very proud of that. Yeah.
So this is Alligator in Alignment. What I'm gonna say is happy trails, and we'll be in touch. Okay, remember, if you're in Fairfax, the Marin Alliance.
Come and see us.
Just come and see them.
Yeah, you betcha.
Bye, y'all. I'll see you later.
Right on. Woohoo! That was a good interview.